Offshore versus offshore banking. In this video, I will explain the difference between offshore and offshore banking. A bit of history, how it started and when it becomes public. So it all started back in the 1950s. The city of London created, after the fall of the First Empire, the Second British Empire, which was the offshore system. And the offshore system is basically known as the British overseas territories like Bermuda, BVI, Cayman Islands, Cyprus, Gibraltar, Malta, Hong Kong, Turks and Caicos. These are basically British overseas territories which would be used as offshore destinations. And you can have on one side in these destinations companies, offshore companies, which is perfectly fine. But the moment you start banking with one of these local offshore banks, two things happen. You log in to your online banking, you put all the details in, what needs to be known for the transaction. The moment you press enter, first thing is you bank with AI, and the second thing is your data are shared with the local central bank and then with authorities above. This is happening because of an event which was happening back in 2016. And we all heard about this event, and the name of this event was Panama Papers. During the Panama Papers, things become public who never should become public. And during these times, all of these offshore territories have been pressured to sell off their banking privacy. That means what I said and what I described before: you log in online banking, you put all the transaction details in, you press enter, and then your details are shared with local authorities and authorities above. So it's perfectly fine having on one side your offshore company, but the moment you start banking with offshore banks, local offshore banks, privacy is gone. So this is great, but this is pretty useless. But anyway, and if you think how powerful this system was, like talking about loans, 40% of all global loans are coming from these offshore destinations, from these British overseas territories. This means how powerful this whole offshore banking system was. Until Panama Papers happen, banking privacy is gone and things get further developed. But what is behind, or what is next after offshore banking? It's called offshore banking. And this is the most and best kept secret nowadays in banking world, because there are very few, under one handful jurisdictions where you can bank offshore. And this is the reason why it's hardly not known, because it's elite banking at its highest level, and not many people are interested that it becomes public. And what makes offshore so special is, by law, there is no data change agreement. That means what happens in your bank account stays in your bank account. So if you have an offshore company, which is totally fine, and you have an offshore bank account, then it's a match made by heaven. Think about it. And offshore banking is elite banking at its highest level. It's by invitation only. You must be qualified, you must be accepted, and then you can bank offshore. But what you know from your high street banks is completely different how offshore banking works. Offshore banking is basically old German or Swiss private banking. That means transactions are executed by human being and not compared to high street banks and offshore banks executed by AI bots. And that's the difference. And if you never heard about offshore banking, especially if you are a high 6, 7, 8 or 9-figure business owner, click the link in bio, book your private consultation. I'm happy to talk 15 minutes on the phone to you. and work out how offshore-offshore banking can benefit your business. Thank you and speak soon. Bye-bye.